Think about it for a moment. You wake up in the morning, and before you even have that first cup of coffee, your brain has already run through everything that's wrong. Why is it so hot outside? Why did I not sleep so well? Why must traffic be this terrible? Why can't my boss get me? It's pretty much on autopilot. The brain is hardwired to look for issues because at some point in human evolution kept us alive. But here's the reality today. Most of what we gripe about is not life threatening, it's progress threatening. Complaining is a habit, and as with any habit, the more you practice it, tighter it becomes. The more you practice it, the more it becomes the soundtrack to your life. And that soundtrack stops momentum dead in its tracks. Consider this, what do you do when you complain? You tell yourself a story that you're powerless. And every complaint says, I don't have control, something out there is bigger than me, I can't do anything about it. That's a comforting story in the short term because it frees you from responsibility, but it also takes power from you. You can't develop if you're always reinforcing the thought that you're trapped. Complaining is a practice of weakness. And whatever you practice, you become better at it. Here's the thing. Most people aren't even aware of how frequently they're doing it. They're not only complaining aloud, they're complaining to themselves. Negative self-talk in your mind is where all the harm is being done. Every time you catch yourself saying to yourself, this isn't fair, or nothing ever changes, your nervous system gets the message. You're practicing stress. You're programming yourself to feel defeated. And if you tell that narrative enough, you begin living it. But tell me one thing, has complaining ever made a difference? Ever made the relationship better, boosted your earnings, improved your health, or brought joy? The answer is no. Complaining never improves circumstances. It only makes you smaller and not better. It narrows your vision. It makes opportunity invisible. I've been coaching individuals for decades, and what I know is that breakthrough does not occur when individuals just continue complaining about the issue. Breakthrough occurs when they put their energy into action. Complaining is inexpensive. Courage is needed for growth. And the moment you can identify complaining as a habit that disempowers you, power to stop it, the power to change is always within you. So what if rather than complaining practice, you practiced awareness? What if each time you caught yourself falling into that old pattern, you stopped and asked, what can I do here? How can I fuel up on this? That small change from thinking about what's not working to thinking about what is possible shifts your state in the moment. Because the second you stop fueling the problem with your words, you begin starving it. And when you starve the problem, you nourish the solution. I want you to actually think hard about the price of complaining. Imagine where in life you would be if all that time you have been spending on dwelling upon what was wrong was spent building what was right. Think of the companies launched, the bonds grown stronger, the well-being changed, the happiness gained. If only all that lost energy had gone into growing. Complaining takes away time you can never have back. But as soon as you quit, you create the energy to construct, to build, to go forward. So choose today. Choose to not make complaining the default habit that describes your life. Because the truth is you can't complain your way into a better future. You can't whine your way into success. You can't concentrate on problems and live in solutions. Growth happens when you stop the pattern that takes away from you and select the pattern that adds to you. The minute you get control of your focus, you get control of your destiny. And that starts with one simple, mighty decision to cease rehearsing complaints and begin rehearsing progress. Imagine this. Two individuals are experiencing the very same circumstance, same obstacles, same challenges, same setbacks. One feels defeated, despondent, certain nothing will ever be different. The other feels resolute, energized, certain this is merely another step toward development. What's the difference? It's not luck. It's not situation. It's focus. Because here's the thing, energy goes where attention flows. Whatever you decide to tie your mind up in, you bring to life. If you focus on the issue, you enlarge it. If you concentrate on the answer, you build momentum. Most people don't even understand that their pain isn't generated by what occurs to them, but by what they decide to pay attention to afterward. Human mind is a magnifying glass. It will magnify whatever you focus on. Put it on frustration, and frustration grows. Put it on possibility, and possibility grows. This is why people get stuck for so many years, because they are nourishing the issue with all their energy. And if you give something energy, it grows. Remember when you were in a time in your life where you were fixated on what was broken. Perhaps it was a money issue, perhaps an illness, perhaps a relationship that seemed to be broken. The more you considered it, heavier it felt. It took your energy, you slept on it, you woke up on it, and before long you didn't even have the strength to alter it because all your energy was fixed on the heaviness of the issue. Then perhaps for one fleeting moment you shifted. You spoke up and said, okay, I don't like where I am, but what can I do about it? What's the next step? That minute shift of focus altered everything. Suddenly you were energized, you had clarity, you had movement. That's the power of focus. It drains you or it energizes you, depending on where you put it. Share something with you that I've observed time and again, individuals who accomplish incredible things are not people who don't have issues. People who choose not to give their energy to the wrong things. They've conditioned themselves to direct their attention where it counts. They don't nurture the weeds, they water the seeds. They don't deny reality. They recognize the problem, but they don't reside in it. They inhabit the vision of where they're headed, not the limitation of where they are. Here's the catch. Focus is a choice. Most people don't do it consciously. The brain defaults to noticing what's wrong because it believes it's keeping you safe. But in truth, it's holding you back. Starts when you reclaim conscious control of what you focus on, rather than asking, why me? Ask, what's next? Instead of moping about, this is not fair, ask, how can I utilize this? That reframing doesn't merely shift your thinking, it shifts your physiology, it shifts your state. Instantly, your body feels different, your mind feels different, your energy shifts. You step back into your power. Imagine it this way, concentration is like sunlight. Spread it out and it warms. But put it under a magnifying glass and it burns. Your life's the same. Scattered energy warms nothing, changes nothing. Concentrated energy lights the fire of change. That's why the most successful individuals in the world are fixated on where their attention lies. They know that concentration is fuel, and they refuse to squander it on things that sap them of energy. So the next time you find yourself looping into griping or stuck on what's not working, keep in mind, you're nurturing the very behavior you don't want. Stop it, swap it. Ask yourself, what am I deciding to put my energy into right now? Is it taking me further toward expansion or keeping me in a place? Because in each moment, you're either creating your future or affirming your past. Energy follows focus. If you desire more energy, more growth, progress, then focus on the vision of who you're becoming, not the narrative of why it's hard. Because when you gain control over your focus, you gain control over your destiny. Let me share something strong with you. Your story becomes your reality. All of us are living within a narrative we construct about who we are, what is possible, the meaning of life. And that narrative is either taking us higher or weighing us down. Some individuals construct the narrative that life is tough, that they are unfortunate. They have attempted everything and nothing ever works. And once you tell yourself that narrative enough times, you begin to become a believer. And when you think it, you quit trying. That tale becomes your cage. Here's the truth. Your circumstances don't define you. Your story does. Two people can face the exact same challenge. One says, this is the end for me. The other says, this is the beginning of something new. Same reality, different story, completely different outcome. It's not the external world that's stopping you. It's the internal narrative you've accepted as truth. When I work with individuals, I listen carefully to the words they speak, because words tell you the story you've been practicing. It's impossible. I'm not good enough are not facts, they're stories. And the danger with stories is that they become self-fulfilling. If you believe you're unlucky in love, block out every chance to connect. If you convince yourself that you're broke, you won't notice the opportunity to increase your income. If you convince yourself you're undisciplined, you'll steer clear of areas in which discipline is needed. The story becomes the script you unknowingly play out day in and day out. But the instant you alter your story, you alter your life. Consider this, every amazing comeback, every amazing change starts with someone uttering, I will no longer reside in the old story. Writing a new one, that's the moment when an individual is able to transition from victim to creator, from stuck to unstoppable. And nobody gets permission from anyone to rewrite your story. needs anyone else to approve it. You decide, you choose, you own the pen you are holding. The trick is to notice the distinction between the story that keeps you safe and the story that gets you in trouble. The safe story is don't risk it. Don't try, don't step out because you might fail. The growth story is, yes, I might fail, but I'll learn, I'll evolve better. One story safeguards your ego in the short run. The other crafts your destiny in the long run. Which one do you want to live in? And this is the most empowering bit. Your story isn't set in stone. It's not written down on paper. You can alter it here and now, in this exact moment, by choosing to give it a new meaning. Perhaps you've been interpreting the story to yourself that your struggles are evidence that you're cursed. What if instead you turned it on its head and said, struggles are evidence that I'm being prepared for something greater. That's not denial, it's reframing, it's taking back your power. Remember, this life is not about avoiding pain, it's about giving empowering meaning to whatever comes. If you interpret pain as evidence of your weakness, it will destroy you. If you interpret pain as evidence of your strength, it will make you stronger. The event is the same. What you tell yourself about it is what makes all the difference. So I challenge you now, what's the story you've been living in? Is it a story of limitation, of excuses, why things never work out? Or is it a story of growth, resilience, and possibility? Because you don't rise to the level of your circumstances, you rise to the level of your story. When you rewrite the story, you rewrite your destiny. Here's something that most people never understand. Complaints are not the enemy. They're signals. They're feedback. They're the brain's way of saying, something here doesn't feel right. Pay attention. But here's the trap. Too many of us take those signals and treat them like destinations. We set up camp in the land of complaining. Rather than employing the signal to create change, we employ it to justify remaining precisely where we happen to be, and growth goes there to die. Consider your automobile for a moment. When the check engine light appears, it's a signal reporting to you to pull over, exit the vehicle, and remain on the side of the road forever. It's reporting something needs your attention. Suppose you did this every time your check engine light illuminated. Well, guess this car is totaled forever. Do anything about it. That's what complaining does, confusing the warning light with the verdict. Complaints are data. They inform you of what you care about. If you complain all the time about money, perhaps it's not about money at all. It's about having more freedom. If you complain all the time about your relationship, perhaps what you really want is more connection. The issue isn't that you complain. The issue is that you let the complaint alone without going deeper. Self-improvement starts when you utilize the complaint as fuel. Suppose you don't like your health. You might continue to tell the tale, it's my genes, I am too busy, nothing works for me. That's complaining as a destination. Alternatively, you might ask, what is this complaint revealing to me? Truly desire. Perhaps the complaint isn't really about genes, it's about desiring more energy, more confidence, more life force. If you change your attention to the want under the complaint, you have a direction. Complaints can be the compass that leads you toward transformation. But if you repeat the complaint in your mind time after time, all you're doing is solidifying the issue. Complaining without effort is like rocking in a chair. It keeps you busy, but it doesn't take you anywhere. And the longer you're in that cycle, the more your brain connects complaining with ease. It's a default setting. That's how so many end up being years behind in the same cycles. They confuse dissatisfaction expressed with progress. But complaining isn't winning. So what do you do instead? Instant you catch yourself complaining, make it a trigger. Rather than letting it escalate into negativity, catch yourself and say, what is this complaint revealing to me? What need to shift can I do immediately? That flip creates the energy of frustration and turns it into momentum. And momentum is everything. Momentum is what turns the smallest step into irreversible growth. I'll illustrate that. I used to work with someone who was always griping about their work. They hated the hours, the lack of recognition, the cap on their earning potential. For years, they told that story to everyone who would listen. Nothing changed because the complaint had become the destination. The minute they saw, wait, my complaint is saying I need to make something of my own, everything changed. They began a side hustle They invested in themselves. They took action. That same complaint that once kept them captive turned into the very thing that ignited their growth. This is the truth. Your whining doesn't sentence you to defeat, signifies you care. It signifies something within you recognizes that you can do better. But you've got to stop confusing the signal with the stop sign. Don't dwell in it. Don't repeat it. Let it be who you are. Utilize it. Let it prod you to step anew, experiment anew, create anew. Because in the end, complaining without change is wasted effort. Complaining that creates awareness, that inspires new action, that compels you to a new level of yourself. That's transformation. And when you learn to make your complaints catalysts, you cease to regard them as issues and begin to regard them as great invitations to become larger. Here's the break point if you'd like to grow. If you'd like to escape that loop of frustration and complaining, exchange blame for accountability. That's where everything shifts, because as long as you're blaming your boss, your parents, your spouse, the economy, the weather, you're giving your power away. You're giving over the keys to your life and saying, I'm not in charge, they are. And let's face it, you can't bring about growth if you think your fate is in someone else's hands. Blame is a good feel for an instant, isn't it? It's a flash release. It's not my fault. It's because of them. It's because of that experience. It's because life is unfair. You get that little relief of not having to confront yourself. But here's the cost each time you opt for blame. You reinforce hopelessness. You wire yourself to think that you're trapped. And if you think you're trapped long enough, you begin to behave as if you're trapped. You drop your standards. You narrow your vision. You begin to live in survival rather than in creation. Responsibility is the opposite. Responsibility doesn't always mean it's your fault. Let that straighten out. Responsibility just means you choose to take ownership of your response. It means that you accept that though you can't always control what occurs, you can always control what it means to you and what you do with it. Liberty, that's power. That's where growth starts. Consider the most inspiring people in history. They had all the reasons to complain, reasons to blame, reasons to quit. Made them remarkable was choosing to take responsibility instead. Nelson Mandela could have blamed the system for stealing from him 4 decades of his life. Instead, he took responsibility for creating a vision of unity and reconciliation. Oprah could have blamed her childhood for all the suffering she endured. She chose instead to own it and transform that suffering into strength. They didn't wait for ideal conditions. They decided to own their response and, in the process, not just their lives, but the lives of millions. Compare that to the typical person who wastes their energy on pointing fingers. If my boss paid me more, I'd work harder. If my partner supported me, be happier. If the government fixed things, my life would be better. Here's the problem. While they're waiting for someone else to change, their life is on hold. And time doesn't wait. Doesn't pause until your excuses are done. Each day you live in blame is a day you might have spent growing, creating, building, becoming. The transition is easy but drastic rather than wondering, who's at fault? Wonder, what can I do? That one question shifts your mood. It takes you from victim to creator. Suddenly you cease waiting and begin moving. You cease pointing outside and begin looking inside. You find you have more control than you realized, more options than you dreamed, more power than you've been applying. This is the truth. Day you take complete responsibility for your life is the day you enter into true freedom, because now nobody else gets to control your destiny. Not your past, not your parents, not your boss, government, just you. And that is the most powerful place you can operate from. So if you've been stuck in blame, today is the day to release it. Because the people or situations you're blaming for are innocent, but because you deserve your power back. You deserve to cease wasting energy pointing fingers and instead put that energy into growth. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and begin asking, how can I use this, you shift your entire reality. Responsibility is not a burden, it's the key. It's the moment you realize you are not defined by what's been done to you. You are defined by what you decide to do next. And when you take ownership, you stop living at the mercy of life and start living as the author of your life. That's when growth isn't just possible, but unavoidable. Let me tell you something that can transform your life forever. Your circumstances that shape your growth. It's your outlook. Outlook is everything. You and I both know individuals who have been through pure hell. loss, rejection, betrayal, financial disaster, and yet they enter a room with light in their eyes. And you have friends who have so much to be thankful for, but they're always miserable, always looking for something to complain about. Difference. It's not the situations. It's the reality they choose to live in. Here's the truth. What you look at becomes your experience, but how you see it becomes your life. Glance at a failure and say, this is evidence that I will never make it. Or you can glance at the very same failure and say, this is my gym. This is where I develop the muscle I will require for the next level. One way makes you stop. The other way makes you grow. The occurrence is the same, but the meaning is entirely different. Gratitude is perhaps the strongest tool for changing your perspective. Because when you are in gratitude, you cannot be in complaining simultaneously. Try it. Think about something you're very thankful for in this moment. Perhaps your health, perhaps someone you care about, perhaps simply the fact that you're alive and breathing right now. Feel it all the way. Being in that state, do you feel like complaining? Do you feel helpless? Of course not. Gratitude flips the switch. It widens your vision. It reminds you that even when life isn't perfect, there's still beauty, still progress, still possibility. And then there's the growth mindset. The growth mindset states, I don't have to be perfect, I just need to get better. When you operate in that mindset, failure is no longer deadly. It's feedback. Every obstacle is a chance to hone your skills, build your resilience, enrich your wisdom. Rather than thinking about problems as a punishment, you think of them as preparation. That one mindset shift, convert setbacks into stepping stones. Reflect on the hardships you've endured in your own life. When you were going through them, perhaps they seemed impossible to endure. But now you look back and realize they molded you, they instructed you, they gave you strength that you wouldn't exchange for the world. That's perspective. What if, rather than waiting years to appreciate the gift, you decided right now to look at the problems that face you today as gifts in disguise? That choice alone accelerates your growth. You stop resisting what is and start working with it. Perspective is the lens you wear. If your lens is dirty, distorted, filled with blame and negativity, everything appears impossible. If you clean the lens, if you wear the lens of gratitude and growth, you see possibilities that were invisible previously. You begin to see solutions. You begin to attract the right people. You begin to move with a confidence that says, life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. I recall working with a fellow who lost everything during the 2008 financial crisis. He was depressed, angry, blaming the system, overwhelmed with complaints. Then one day he changed his attitude. He said, this is my reset. This is my opportunity to build smarter, leaner, stronger. And that's exactly what he did within a couple of years. He not only regained, but built a much stronger business than the one he lost. The event hadn't changed, the view had. So I want you to remember this isn't about living your best life. It's about selecting a perspective that empowers you regardless of what life sends your way. Gratitude provides fuel. A growth mindset provides direction. Together, turn barriers into bridges and agony into advancement. Perspective is your superpower at the end of the day. Use it well, because when you opt for gratitude over complaint, opt for growth over limitation, you begin to no longer define yourself as a victim of circumstance, but rather as a creator. And from there, no end to how far you can expand. There is a reality of life that most people miss until they're too old. Progress is happiness, not money, not fame, not even comfort. Progress. Consider it. Have you ever reached a goal you'd been pursuing for years, and as soon as you did, the thrill wore off after a little while? That's not because it wasn't a great goal. It's because the goal itself wasn't what was giving you enduring satisfaction. It was the journey you were on, the fact that you were learning, changing, moving ahead. That's what ignites the human spirit. Complaining kills progress because it traps you in place. You're going around in circles expending energy, but you're not getting anywhere. And when you're not getting anywhere, you're empty, you feel stagnant. People walk around drained, not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too little of what stretches them out. They're repeating the same stories, the same routines, the same issues, day in and day out. That lack of growth eats away at their joy. Now, here's the gorgeous part: progress need not be huge to get you alive. It merely needs to be actual. When you acquire a new skill, one step in the direction of your vision, or enhance anything even by 1%, your brain perceives it as growth. That releases energy, passion, and satisfaction. The smallest steps build into momentum. Momentum is what makes you unstoppable. Let's get real: issues will never go away. You'll always have issues in relationships, in business, in health, in life. Here's the secret: happiness isn't found in doing away with problems. Happiness is found in growing bigger than them. When you grow, issues that used to be insurmountable become smaller. They don't disappear. They no longer stop you. And suddenly what once pulverized you now motivates you. That's the strength of advancement. It doesn't take away the hurricane. It makes you stronger than the hurricane. Consider your own life for a second. Remember the moment you felt most alive. Was it when everything was simple and given to you? Or was it when you were pushing, learning, innovating, stretching towards something greater than yourself? All of the best moments of satisfaction stem from growth, because at the core of us, we're not programmed merely to survive, but to grow. And when we're growing, joyful. I'll illustrate. I had a guy I was working with who had it all: money, prestige, the life that most people aspire to, but he was unhappy. Why not? Because he wasn't growing. He was in the same routine, the same social circle, the same habitual patterns. As soon as he created a new vision for himself, something that forced him to grow, everything changed. The money didn't change. The conditions didn't change. He did, and when he grew, his joy increased exponentially. So the actual question isn't, how can I eliminate my issues? The actual question is, how can I become so big that my issues no longer dictate me? Because the larger you become, the smaller your issues seem. When you begin to make growth, physical, emotional, financial, spiritual, then you light yourself up. That spark is what turns you into an unstoppable force. And here's the thing: you don't need to wait for ideal conditions to begin growing. Growth is present in every moment if you decide. Read a book that provokes you. Have a conversation that challenges you. Stretch your body a little more. Take a step toward the dream you've been deferring. Every action you take towards growth creates momentum, and every increment of momentum creates joy. So stop waiting for things to get easier. Stop waiting for the right moment. Stop relating to the tale that happiness appears when everything is perfect. Happiness appears when you develop. Progress is happiness. When you make that very first step forward, no matter how insignificant, feel it, the energy rush, the flame in your heart, the encouragement that you exist and you're progressing. That's what makes life special. There's a quote that you've probably heard before: you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with. And let me tell you, there's more truth in this than most people care to admit. Because whether you know it or not, your surroundings are shaping you on a daily basis. If you hang out with people who complain, you will begin to complain. If you hang around with people who play small, you'll find yourself shrinking to fit in. If you're around people who are hungry, people who are driven, people who are growth obsessed, you can't help but grow. Human beings are social. We adjust to the energy of the tribe. And here's the catch: most folks remain stuck not because they can't, but because they are living in a bad environment. You can want it all. Want it with every fiber of your being. If those around you are feeding something negative constantly reinforcing limitations, constantly bringing the conversation down into gossip and excuses, long before you'll get sucked into that gravity, you don't even realize it's happening. You wake up one morning and you wonder why you're feeling so drained, so uninspired, so stuck. The reverse is also true. When you surround yourself with people who challenge you, with people who make you accountable to be better, with people who affirm growth and move beyond fear, you elevate. Energy carries you. Their vision expands you. Their belief in what is possible reminds you of yours. Growth becomes the standard, not the anomaly. Consider it this way. Suppose you plant a seed in poisonous soil. Would you be surprised if it didn't sprout? Not in the least. But so many people plant their dreams in poisonous situations and ask why they never fly. That the seed is defective. It's that the soil isn't healthy. The surroundings count. And the beautiful thing is you can modify them. Doesn't equate to cutting others out of your life with judgment or cruelty. It means you become intentional. It means you ask yourself, who am I learning from? Who am I modeling? Who am I allowing to impact my energy, my vision, my standards? If the answer is those who complain, who settle, who will not grow, then you already understand why you feel stagnant. If the answer is people who dream bigger, who act bolder, who push beyond excuses, then you know why you're rising. Occasionally, it only takes a single shift in your sphere to turn everything around. One mentor, one friend who won't let you settle, one mastermind group that speaks the language of growth. Now, you're in a new environment and you begin breathing differently. You cease saying, "Why is life so difficult?" And you begin saying, "How much further can I push?" That is the potential of environment. It dictates not only what you do, but who you become. I'm going to be honest with you. If you want to grow, you've got to be merciless about your surroundings. You've got to put yourself around people who are scaling, not people who are at ease. Because comfort is catch, but so is growth. Whatever one you let rule your crew will rule your life. So look around you. Who are the people speaking into your life at the moment? Are they drawing you forward or keeping you back? Are they displaying what's possible for you, or are they persuading you to accept? Because you have a choice. You can't always choose where you begin, but you can choose who you are with. At the end of the day, if you don't want to complain and grow, ensure your environment is consistent with your vision. Get around people who are hungry, who are alive, who are pursuing growth with everything. Because when you do, their fire will ignite yours. And together you'll rise higher than you ever could alone. Here's the thing about complaining. It's a pattern. It's not just words. It's a state. Only action to shatter a pattern is action. Not someday, not later, now. Because nothing will change until you move. You can think, you can write about it, you can complain about it all you want. Until you act, you're still trapped in the same cycle. And that's why huge, persistent action is the greatest antidote to complaining. Think about it. When you're in your head, you can spiral for hours, days, reliving the same issues. But the moment you do even the tiniest thing, your energy changes instantly. Rather than fueling the narrative of "I can't," you're demonstrating to yourself, "I can." That's momentum. Momentum stops the cycle. I've witnessed it over and over. Someone says to me, "Tony, I've done everything. Nothing works. I'm stuck." And I'll say to them, "What did you really do?" 90% of the time. Didn't do very much. They thought about it. They read about it. They thought about it some more. But they didn't take decisive, sustained action. And the fact is, action rewires your brain. Action creates evidence that you're not helpless. Action creates confidence. Now, here's the secret. Don't wait for the best plan. Perfection is progress's enemy. If you wait until you know everything, be waiting an eternity. Just take action. Take the first step. Send the email. Make the phone call. Go to the gym. Initiate the project. Doesn't matter how little it is. Little action creates big action. Big action creates momentum, and momentum alters everything. Let's be honest, complaining is easy. It protects you. It provides a sense of relief without asking for change. But change is painful. Demands that you push, that you take risks, that you risk failure. And that's why most people remain stuck. They opt for the ease of complaining instead of the pain of action. But here's the catch. Pain of action is short term, but the agony of remaining stuck is permanent. So you've got to condition yourself to disrupt the pattern with action. Second you notice that voice in your head beginning to complain, cut it off. Stand up, move your body, shift your physiology, do something right away that is consistent with the future you desire. Simply think about health. Go for a run. Don't simply think about money. Make the call. Bring forth the idea. Ask for the opportunity. Don't think about your relationships. Say the truth. Offer the compliment. Make the link. Action is what stops the cycle and creates the new habit of expansion. I vividly recall a woman I worked with who had been stuck for decades in a hated job. She grumbled every day about her boss, her colleagues, her salary. She had every reason in the world why nothing could be done. But one day, she made a choice. She didn't leave her job in a single night. She made one move. She enrolled in a night course. That single move changed her state. Suddenly, rather than living in the complaining, she was living in progress. The course resulted in a certification, which resulted in a new career, which resulted in a life she previously believed was not possible. It started with disrupting the pattern with one tiny but forceful move. So here is my challenge to you. Stop waiting. Stop running the problem around in your head. Stop perpetuating the complaint with your words. Do something, anything that propels you toward the life you want. Because when you do, you break the old pattern. And when you do it over and over, you establish a new pattern, one of growth, momentum, and empowerment. Remember, this motion creates emotion. If you desire to feel alive, if you desire to feel powerful, if you desire to feel free, then move. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for permission from someone else. The time is now. Power is yours. This massive sustained action is the way you become unstuck from the complaint cycle and move into the life you were intended to live. Here's the final flip, the one that puts it all together. Choose once and for all to be the creator of your life, not the victim of it, because victims complain, creators build. Victims wait, creators act. Victims blame, creators own. Instant you assume that identity of creator, everything shifts in your reality. Being a victim may be comfortable. It allows you to play the victim card. It provides you with an excuse of why things fell apart. It takes away from you power. When you're living as a victim, life is unfolding for you. When you're living as a creator, life is unfolding for you. Same set of circumstances, entirely different reality. Let's be realistic. Most individuals don't even know they're living as victims. They whine about the boss, the economy, the government, their spouse, their history. They persuade themselves that the reason they're trapped is beyond them. And since they think that the issue is out there, they never look in here. They never discern the truth that the one thing that keeps them from development is the story they keep selecting. But when you walk into being a creator, you take the pen back. You no longer let the past pen your future. You no longer let circumstance dictate who you are. You start intentionally designing your life. You declare, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is where I'm headed. And you follow it up with behavior. Reflect on the individuals who inspire you the most. They weren't individuals who had cushy lives. They weren't individuals who were given everything. Individuals who experience setbacks, agony, rejection, failure, but rather than letting those things turn them into victims, they took those experiences and used them as fuel to become creators. Created new narratives, new norms, new horizons. And that's why we honor them. Not because life had been easy for them, but because they would not accept the role of victim. Here's the glory of being a creator. You do not require permission. You don't require the world to approve of you. You don't require optimal circumstances. You simply require that you choose. Choose that you're no longer on the radar for excuses. Choose that complaining is not on your level. Make the choice that your life is too valuable to squander in bitterness or blame. Make the choice to grow, to act, to create. And the moment you make that choice, can hold you back, not setbacks, not circumstances, not even failure. Because creators don't define failure as anything other than part of the process, as raw material for their work. So ask yourself today, living as a victim, or am I living as a creator? Am I speaking stories of limitation, or am I writing stories of growth? Am I running lines of complaint, or am I running lines of progress? Each moment, you're casting either one or the other. Life is too short to live as a victim. Life is too remarkable to waste on complaint. World doesn't need one more person mired in blame. The world needs you fully alive, fully empowered, fully creating. And when you enter your higher self, only do you change your own life. You become a light for others. You shine a light on what's possible. You light the way for them to stop complaining and begin growing. You are living testament that wherever you have been, whatever you have endured, you have the ability to create the future you want. So let this be the moment. This be the day you stand in the sand and draw a line and say, I'm done complaining, I'm done blaming, I'm done waiting. Starting right now, I am the creator of my life. Because when you make that declaration, power becomes unlimited, your growth is unstoppable, and your future is limitless.